So Jude Niroshan wants to know how many students are usually selected for a project. It is basically the rules of the program state very clearly that only one person can do one project. So if you're there will not be multiple people selected for a single project idea. So that's something important to remember. Only one person will be selected if different people are applying. Multiple people will not be selected for a single project. Someone has asked on Twitter, what is the biggest challenge you faced on GSOC? I think the biggest challenge for me, every time I did Google Summer of Code, I've done it a couple of times, was the application process. So it's very important to maintain your application process very well. Actually doing the project is not, in my view, actually doing the project is not as hard as actually applying for it, because the application, there's a lot of competition, and you need to compete against a lot of different people and work really hard to convince your mentor that you're the best person to get selected. So that's the biggest challenge I've had both times. As a mentor, what do you expect when selecting a student? Okay, I think I covered a bit of this as well. So the most important thing is that you give a good application. Of course, obviously, we are going to rate you mainly on your application, but like I said, submitting an application alone will not be sufficient for this, because we also, when we see an application on the submission page, we need to have known that student. We need to know that student beforehand. It's just, if we see an application and that student has never interacted with the community, never done any work on the actual code, then that application will get rejected immediately. So the most important thing that we look for is community engagement. You have to have introduced yourself, maintained constant updates with your mentor, contacted your mentor during the application period, and also at the Sana Software Foundation, we require people to have fixed at least 2 issues on the code, on the software, and I know that a lot of other organizations follow this practice as well. We also require that, so to know that you're capable of working on this software. And then, of course, the application itself will receive consideration based on the fact whether you engage with the community properly during the application period. What are the do's and do nots in GSOC? Let's talk about the application process mainly. So in the application process, the do's are, like I said, you need to really engage with the community. A couple of good things to do are, so let's say you're working for maybe Mozilla Firefox. You're trying to apply for a project idea on Mozilla Firefox. So you've introduced yourself on the mailing list, you've engaged with the mentor, and you have an idea of how to complete the project. Everything is fine. So there might be someone else asking questions about how to install it, how do I build Firefox, how do I use this particular feature on the mailing list or on the maybe the chat channels. So to answer these questions is a very good thing to do. So to show that you're a team player, you're a member of the community. Always try to help others when you're part of a community. That is very highly looked on, because your mentor will be very impressed. The mentors in the organization will also be impressed and happy with the way you're interacting with the community. Another do is maintain a good relationship with your mentor, but don't go chasing after the mentor. Once the mentor talks to you, you can build up a relationship, and you can discuss the project and maintain a good relationship. Some of the don'ts are, don't be annoying or don't be very over persistent. Don't send about 5 emails a day asking about different things or saying, why is the mentor not responding to me? Don't do things like that. Don't be rude to other people in the community. That normally is an instant disqualification if you're rude to someone. Be very polite. Of course, don't refer to anyone in the community as sir or madam, just first name basis, please, because don't maintain that kind of hierarchy in open source organizations. Yeah, so those are some of the don'ts that you should, things that you should not do during your GSOC application period. Do you want to prepare any demo prototype before the proposal submission? So some of the organizations will require this from you, but most of them do not. But it's always a good idea to actually start building some of the components of your project. It's always a very good idea to do that. So how this works is, once the applications close, there is actually a period of time where the applications are evaluated. There's about a month, right? So the important thing is not to go silent during this month. You don't just submit your application and disappear. During that month, just start working on the project, or continue fixing bugs, or engaging with the community. Just stay around, which will really contribute towards you getting selected. So for example, when I did my first Summer of Code project, I finished about an eighth of the actual project before I even got selected. So that really contributes towards you getting selected, because you built some of the feature, or you've done some of the project, right? How can they not select you after that? So the important thing to remember is that it's good. It's not required that you build a prototype or a demo before you apply, but it's always a good idea. It's not required, but it's a good idea. What if I am not accepted the first time? Okay, so it's very important not to get discouraged if you don't get accepted. So the first time I applied was in second year. I applied to an organization called Geeklog. They're a CMS based on PHP. So in that application, that application was very bad. I didn't know any of these the ways to engage with the community. I didn't know a lot of the technology. So it was a bad application and I didn't get selected. But that didn't discourage me. I applied in my third year and I got selected. So as long as you have more years left as long as you have more years left in your university career, you should apply every year and not be discouraged if you don't get selected. So someone has asked, I have only worked in Java. Can I select a project on other languages and learn on the go? Okay, so there are a lot of projects, Google Summer of Code mentoring organizations that accept Java, that have Java as a programming language. But if you want to learn something new, it's doable. I know a lot of people who learn technology while applying for their Summer of Code project. A lot of people actually. Most of the time you'll be learning a lot of new frameworks. Even if you're doing a Java project, you'll be learning a lot of new frameworks, new libraries, things like that when you're applying for GSOC. So it's okay to try and learn something while you're applying or during the project itself, but it's generally recommended to go with a programming language that you at least know beforehand, at least have a basic knowledge on, because having to learn a programming language as well might be a bit of a burden, because you will have to learn a lot of different frameworks within that language as well to do a successful Summer of Code project. Can I contribute for a project outside of GSOC? How would that work? Of course, these are open source organizations, right? Open source organizations always accept contributors. So one of the easiest ways to find an open source organization to contribute to is to go on the Google Summer of Code website and search for different organizations on maybe different technologies. Select one of those and you can still engage with that community. Even if it's not for Google Summer of Code, you can contribute to a community. So for example, I contribute like that to the Moodle organization. So I'm not engaged with any GSOC work with them, but I still contribute. So that was one of so always open source organizations will accept contributors, individual contributors who are not part of the organization, and eventually you might even become a part of the organization as well. So of course you can contribute to an open source organization outside of Google Summer of Code.